Hi there, I'm Linda Hammond for Sparking Discovery, and this is Talk to Us Live. This particular show is usually where I spend time sharing the views and news of others in our industry with you, our viewers. But this afternoon, I'll be sharing chapter 2 of my life as an entrepreneur, the narrative with you. So let's get into it. Before I begin with chapter 2 of my journey, I want to answer a few questions I received, and at the same time, it'll probably provide clarity on certain of my viewpoints. So one of the questions was, should everyone strive to be an entrepreneur? So this is a tough one. Being an entrepreneur doesn't make you better than someone who has a job, and in a lot of ways, it doesn't make your life better either. It's pretty much a personal choice. And this is where what your values and aspirations are come in. It's not difficult to choose if you're not sure about, well, no, it is difficult to choose if you're not sure about what you value in your life. Here's what I can tell you about my experience. As mentioned in chapter 1, I wanted freedom to determine my direction in life. That was essential to self-actualization in my life for me, which may not be the case in your life and for you. A lot of people find the freedom they want in having a job with a fixed salary. It makes them feel secure that every month they will have income. Even if this isn't necessarily 100% accurate, they feel comfortable in that space. And anyway, if it doesn't work out, they'll just go elsewhere. That's how they see it. They don't want to have the burden of whether there will be enough business or whether you have the right caliber of staff and or equipment. You're reliant on the buoyancy of the market, or even having to pivot if the market demands something different. These aspects of being an entrepreneur are really worrisome. They have a direct impact on the service you're able to deliver and therefore the money you can make. And making them a direct threat to your well-being is the outcome of that. Often these concerns threaten the very bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is food, your home, your health, your family, your friendship, sense of belonging. So if you have a look at what's happening at the moment with the pandemic, it's put a lot of us in this position where mere survival has become self-actualization, just to make sure we can keep ourselves afloat. The stage you find yourself in life is also dependent on whether entrepreneurship is for you. When you're young and you're either in the earning or the learning stage of your life, it's more scary, but in some ways it's actually easier. You don't really have that much to lose except identity capital, which you can rebuild. A lot of time, however, you don't have the experience or the know-how, and this sets you back. So unless you can partner with someone who has a similar mindset regarding entrepreneurship and does have the experience and intuition, you have to just bumble along on your own and work it out as you go along. When your focus is on raising a family, your focus may change, and know that I'm not saying that because I'm a woman. It's just the way it is. It's really tough to manage the impact of a new startup or even an existing one, and at the same time, starting a young family. You feel as though you're getting absolutely nothing right. You're a bad mother, a bad boss, a completely distant partner, and a terrible vendor as well. Having the right mental wherewithal and attitude to enjoy life and provide is often really, really difficult. I've always said the trick here is to realize you can have it all, but you can't do it all. Build a support infrastructure that you can trust both at work and at school, with the family and your friends. So, a long answer to a short question, I realize that, but the takeouts are: explore what the one big thing is that drives your value system. And don't kid yourself, the sacrifices are huge and there's no guarantee of reward. This idea of it works on paper, therefore it will work in real life, is BS. If you can marry these two concepts together and be comfortable with it, the last requirement you need is to believe in yourself. And I mean absolutely and completely believe in yourself. And that's also not so easy, but it's absolutely essential. So that's the outcome of that question, the short answer and the long one. I hope that's been useful, and thank you for the question. The other question I was asked was, what formal education do you need to succeed as an entrepreneur? Sure, really the tough ones are getting thrown my way at the moment. I suppose the choices you have are often determined, and a determining factor of them is what your circumstances offered you, and that will determine what type of education you need. If you really do believe in yourself and you really have something to offer, I think education isn't necessarily always the be-all and end-all. So there are entrepreneurs who are well educated and others who are not. I have an opinion though, as always. I believe the current education system in South Africa stifles and sometimes kills innovation. It promotes the concept of there only being one way to look at and tackle a problem. Personally, I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that being able to identify a problem, and that's key, identify something, a problem, for a community of people, and then being able to explore and ultimately identify a solution is where success lies. Are my children educated? Yeah. So to a large extent, society demands that they're educated, which is rather sad, because it's not about being educated, which is often known as obtaining and having knowledge. It's about being able to identify the core of the problem, and then what routes can be explored through your sphere of influence that can assist you to solve the problem. And then, of course, how resourceful you are. A lot of schools teach critical thinking, and not necessarily the skills that complement critical thinking. So I'd argue that they're probably more important. So social literacy, the ability to collaborate, emotional literacy, debating skills, articulation skills and communication, creativity, the list is endless. But those are not necessarily taught, and they need to be taught in a safe space where people can make mistakes and learn. So that was yet another long answer to a short question. What were the takeouts? In the words of the one famous entrepreneur in my mind, I was educated in the classroom of the real world, which is life. And that was, Sir Richard Branson. It just escaped me there for 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. But yeah, he believes that education that he got was in the real world of life. And to some extent, so do I. But to follow on from that, there are many, many successful autodidacts, Elon Musk being one of them. And there are many autodidacts who have managed to make a successful life for themselves out of entrepreneurship. Okay, so getting back to chapter 2 of my journey, the year 2000. I sold my previous organization in 1998, worked out my service contract, and gave birth to a wonderful little boy. Everybody was convinced that I'd arrived, except me. I never felt so lost in my life. Despite making some good money and eventually having a child, I wasn't sure that that was what I wanted. In fact, I didn't know what I wanted out of life anymore. Was this it? Is this the pinnacle of it? Is this self-actualization? I was a nobody. I was no longer the CEO of a successful company. Everyone in my business network had moved on, and I was nothing more than my son's mom. I'd even lost my name. And yep, there's that indignant tone again, I know. It was a horrendous shocker, to say the least. So what was the problem? I'd never thought of or tried to separate myself from the company I created. So when I sold the company, my identity went along with it. A loss indeed. And as a clinical psychologist I once put it, you've chased the carrot, caught it, eaten it, and now you need a new carrot. Yeah, real simple stuff. So it took a while for me to determine who I was again and what I wanted to be identified with and as. I'd become very comfortable in my previous skin, and I was desperate to get back into some kind of comfort zone. I was absolutely determined not to go back into IT again. I have always, and to this day, still believe success lies with the power of the people. Their ingenuity, their experience, and collective humanity gives me goosebumps every other day, and not always in a good way, Business and commerce have yet to master harnessing this power, and I believe not enough effort is put into realizing people power. And I don't mean this in an activist way. To some extent, it does prove my point. It is this belief and one very specific incident that inspired me to start a business in support of realizing the power of the people within organizations. So let me tell you a bit about the incident. A year-end function was common practice in my previous business. It was a time when we gathered all our stakeholders across the spectrum and had an evening where we encouraged public acknowledgement of each other, realizing how we all rose and fell together when the chips were down, or up when they were up. But also importantly, how we stood on the shoulders of those before us and relied heavily on their experiences. We did this in a fun, activity-based fashion. We had spoof awards. It was great fun. And at the end of one such function, one of our suppliers came to thank me before they left, and his words to me were, "I don't know what is it that you do or how you do it, but this function is the highlight of my year. And when I'm with you and your team, I know every person in this room wants to be working in your business with your team." And the combination of my belief in the power of the people and this incident is how Talk to Us was born. What is interesting now is that my initial purpose back in 1990, which was being able to steer my own course through life, didn't go away. I still wanted to do that. But it provided room for a secondary purpose. And this was to help organizations to inspire and ignite a common sense of purpose in their people, to obtain an improved working experience for the people and an improved performance for the business, born from sharing a common purpose, aligned values, and a culture whereby people inspire each other to be better and do better. So you would have noticed that my first purpose was around myself. My second one was more around the people around me. So I want to close chapter 2 with some advice. Watch this TED Talk by Bill Gross. It's the single biggest reason why startups succeed. The link is below and it will be in the text as well. And this is relevant to my life and my narrative because although my timing was perfect in my first venture, it's something I need to work on to improve. Lately, I'm either too early or possibly too late. I'll share this and more with you in chapter 3. So if you found this useful or interesting, watch the next chapter next week. Please reach out if you have a query or if you'd like to share your experience. I'd love to hear it. Till next week, thank you for the privilege of your time. Happy Friday and enjoy your weekend. Good afternoon.